Point at me. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. We thank you for tuning in on this lovely Monday morning. Hopefully your day is going great. I know Brandon's is because he was laboring all night. He is very angry at Broncos fans, and Broncos fans are very angry at him. Yes, they're very angry at him. And this, when... That's fair. He was so disappointed that Brandon... Now, let me break this down for you people, okay? I've known Brandon for, 6 years now, okay? For Brandon to go out of his way to make a Excel spreadsheet and do physical work that is not of interest to him, that takes a lot. So you Broncos fans, you got to him. You got the best of him, and now he's going to fire back at you today. So... They made you do a spreadsheet. Yeah, they made you do a spreadsheet. So I mean, they definitely got your gears turning. Now you see how today's podcast is gonna go, Broncos fans. You see what you did? We're coming off of a win. Now you got them all hyped up. I think I'm gonna be the nice one today. Oh my god!
Thanks, Cam.
every time. Thank you, Brent. Or thank you, Cam. Every time. I don't know how he forgets this. Every time. But we thank you guys for tuning in.
Well, when I did that Excel sheet, it was 6 a.m. So.
Okay, that's a whole new level, Broncos fans. Okay, not only did you have him do a spreadsheet, but he woke up early.
No, well, I didn't wake up early to do it. I woke up early to get my puppy ready for daycare, and then I couldn't fall back asleep. So then I decided to do it.
But for you to avoid going back to sleep, to give up on sleep to do that says a lot.
I mean, sleep gave up on me, but hey, yeah.
That's fair. Anyways, Broncos win yesterday, 18-12. They hit more threes than the Denver Nuggets. So
I saw that tweet. That was sadly true.
If we could get Brandon McManus to play 2 or 3 for the Nuggets,
and if we could get Jokic to play quarterback for the Broncos,
I think we could work something out here. I think there could be a little 2-for-1 that we could do. You scratch my back, I scratch your back type of thing. But they get the win. Listen, they get the win, 2-3. Somehow, some way, their hopes of being a competitive team are alive. I am officially waving bye to Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, it was nice. Congratulations, New York. He's gonna be in gangrene here in April. So
unless he goes back to 10, would you if you were Trevor Lawrence, and let's say Adam Gase doesn't get fired. He wasn't fired yet, right?
Oh yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm staying at Clemson.
Okay,
I'm staying.
What if they fire Adam Gase?
Then I'll think about it. But most likely, I'm staying at Clemson.
Yeah,
I don't want any part of that rodeo at all. But the Broncos get the win yesterday, 18-12 over the New England Patriots. Nobody saw it coming, despite all the Broncos fans getting angry and posting screenshots of the station I work for and everybody picking against New England. So did ESPN. Really, how many of you Broncos fans really thought that was going to happen yesterday? Well, maybe the ones that drink the Kool-Aid and are. I'll give
them this though.
Broncos snuggies.
But it's counter to what all the excuses that they're giving Drew Lock. But the New England Patriots have not practiced for 2 weeks.
Sure.
So that does it now. Now you can say, well, Tennessee played great not practicing. Sure. Yes, they did. I don't think New England. I mean, I don't know how long it had been for Tennessee. I guess probably around the same time, right? So I don't know.
A week, I would think.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I also think though that the Patriots probably needed their practice a little bit more than Tennessee, just in the style that they play. I don't know. To me, New England looked out of sync. They looked like they looked like a team who hadn't practiced in 2 weeks.
Exactly. But even with healthy Cam Newton, Stephon Gilmore, and Bill Belichick, not only did my station pick against them, not only did ESPN pick against them, not only did Vegas pick against the Broncos. So all these fans are like, you guys are clowns. Really? How many? Let's think logically here and not be completely biased because our orange and blue tight medium shirt is suffocating.
No, I got
getting to our brain.
I got proof that Yeah, they're a little. They're drowning. They're definitely drowning in the Kool-Aid.
They're cuckoo
For
for
sure.
Cocoa Puffs. But you
Yeah.
know what? They win. I'm happy they won. I'm still a fan, even though as many people are probably shocked by that. I'm still a fan. I still like to see them win, even though I wanted to see Trevor Lawrence on this team. But I'll take a win, especially over New England. Anytime you can get that to happen, I'll take it. They win 18-12. Drew Lock, that's a hot topic right there. That's what Brandon's he's got a spreadsheet going. 10 of 24, 189 yards, 2 interceptions. I would officially like to declare this day as you no longer slander Philip Lindsay Day. I don't want to hear any. How many games did it take Melvin Gordon to get to 100 yards? Oh, what was that, Tom Brady? Four games? Fourth down? Four? How many games did it take Philip Lindsay after not playing for 3 months or a month or two, however long it was? One. And
He played well. He played well
against New England.
Yeah, he played well.
He played well. He played well.
He played well. Yeah.
Played great is what he did. We paid the wrong guy. Can we say that? We
23
man.
carries, 101 yards.
He played
man. Well. What is that? That is. Oh my God! There's an ad playing. 23 carries. 23 carries, 101 yards. What is that? Yards per carry.
Over 3. I don't know.
So, yeah, it's not a great yards per carry. He played well. A couple of the runs were really. A few of the runs, he had I would say 3 or 4 really good runs. But
actually, that's 4 right there. So suck it, Brandon.
Is it 4-4? Okay,
Yep.
Okay, it's good average then. I couldn't see the average because freaking ads are playing on ESPN. But yeah, okay, good. Yeah, he had a good game then.
We paid the wrong man. That's what I'm here to say. We paid the wrong man, especially what you paid Melvin Gordon.
Well, no, because what would you have done if when Philip Lindsay got hurt?
Better get in there, Royce. Better make yourself look good.
Well, I think that's the thing is, I liked the pickup of Melvin Gordon because it wasn't just because I didn't think Philip Lindsay could be your bell cow, but it was because it adds another guy back there. Because we've seen what they have back there. Other than Lindsay, it's a bunch of trash.
Is Melvin Gordon, has he lived up to his contract?
No. He hasn't lived up to his contract, and I think at this point, any of those running backs other than Derrick Henry aren't living up to their contract. So, in order to get him, yeah, you had to pay that much. Could you have gone out and got someone else? I don't know. I mean, who else was out there that they could have gotten instead of him? So I don't know that question. If you bring up a couple guys that they could have got instead of him, okay, I'll give you that. But at the same time, again, what would you have done without Philip Lindsay these last 4 weeks? So that's the problem is that Philip Lindsay, I don't trust Philip Lindsay to stay healthy.
But that's assuming that Philip gets healthy, or that Philip got hurt. In that other world scenario.
Sure, but I don't think he would have lasted 16 games either.
I don't know, but I think.
I mean,
when I look at that now, I think they paid the wrong guy, and I'm not saying that Philip deserves this mega deal.
No. But see, they didn't pay the right guy. Now, if during the season Philip Lindsay continues to outperform Melvin Gordon, and they still pay Melvin Gordon or keep Melvin Gordon instead of paying Philip Lindsay, then I would say you paid the wrong guy. But you were not going to pay Philip Lindsay before this season, and not go out and get someone else to make sure. Are you going to give Drew Lock 3 years, $80 million right now, or 3 years, $150 million, however much quarterbacks cost? No. So it's the same thing. Is you need to see if he's really worth it. So if you can take a year where you can take the $8-9 million in cap space to find out, then let's find out. Let's put these guys in competition. And not only that, but if both are playing well, then you got a two-headed monster back there. And there was a play that I loved where they had Philip Lindsay and Freeman out there at the same time. And Lindsay ran from, I believe, the slot back to on the other side of Drew Lock, where Drew Lock was in shotgun. Freeman was in shotgun.
Slot to the backfield,
right, and then he went behind. And then the play ended up going to Freeman. on a catch, I believe. That
It was
was
a hand
a
up just the other way, I think.
Oh, it was a handoff. Okay, but it was a good run. I mean, it was a good play. It was a really good play, and you give them the option. If you have Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay, this is what I wanted to see. Obviously, Lindsay got hurt, couldn't see a lot of
They
it.
did that week 1. That was like one of their first plays was them both in the backfield.
Right. But we didn't get to see it obviously because Philip Lindsay got hurt, so we didn't get to see it more. But this is what gives this offense a little bit more life. Now, you got to be able to score touchdowns, but at the same time, give them credit. They were able to move the ball downfield. Drew Lock, yes, he's a good deep ball passer. Jesus, dude. This is the one thing he does well. What do you mean he doesn't throw a deep ball? Cameron, come on. Drew Lock doesn't throw a deep ball well? Seriously? That's like the one thing we knew he could do.
I think there's questions on is Drew's accuracy sometimes, and that's because he throws off his back foot.
Right.
It's lazy with his technique.
Right, and he did it. He did it yesterday, and I believe one of them turned into a pick. So, no one said that he couldn't throw a deep ball. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. Stop it. But
if they did, then those people are crazy too.
Well, yeah, and if they did, those people are crazy. But I wasn't saying that. You weren't saying that. Most people, 95% of people weren't saying that. The people who were saying
his accuracy though.
Yeah,
I believe it was Tennessee because it was like, dude, he missed. I think it was 4 deep balls that he overthrew, and that's not to say he can't. We know he has the arm strength to do it. We know he has the arm talent. It's just a matter of stop throwing off your back foot all the time.
Right. And the deep balls that connected, or at least should have connected to, because Hamilton should have caught that one. His feet were set. His feet were set.
Yep.
They were really good throws. And again, he's a young quarterback. Can he figure that out? Obviously, yes, he can. He can figure it out. But yeah, I mean, look, back to the Philip Lindsay thing. He played really well. I'll give you that. I still don't think it was a bad decision to go pay Melvin Gordon. Unless you can come up with someone else that you could have paid $9 million to that would have helped this team a lot more. Then, until you figure that out, I mean, I don't think.
Well, I think you could have used that in different ways too, though. It doesn't have to necessarily be the running back position. Listen, I'm not saying and to wrap a bow.
That's what I'm saying. Is there another well, there's obviously other positions, but what other players?
There was, Jason Peters, or there was other players that you could have went out and paid. They could have used that in free agency to a bigger name. So listen, I'm not saying that Philip deserves some mega deal.
Well, what if they had tried though? I mean, and just other players didn't want to go join Denver because, well, they're the Broncos.
Sure, and they definitely could have. We won't know. We won't know that side of things. We won't know who they reached out to and how deals were closed. I'm not saying that Phil deserves some mega deal, but I do think you could have spotted Phil going, $2-3 million this year. If you gave Chris Harris a little bump, you're telling me you couldn't sign Phil to a mini extension or some, made that up front like a signing bonus type of thing.
I'm just saying though, they needed to either draft a running back in one of the top rounds, or they either needed to go out and get someone, because you cannot trust Philip Lindsay to be your bell cow for 16 games.
That, and I don't think
that's the reality.
Freeman.
And you need a second guy.
Yeah. So I understand that, but here again, at the end of the day, I think you could have gave him some money, because now all you've done is he's come out and he's done what he's done his whole tenure here, is prove everybody wrong. I don't think anybody would have thought he would have ran for 100 yards. He did that. He's now a one-time Pro Bowler. He's rushed for 1,000 yards in 2 seasons. Granted, it was slightly above, but it's still a 1,000-yard rusher. I think that means a lot in a passing league. I know we disagree there, but I think that does mean something in a passing league. And now, really, you've pissed him off. Yeah. And I think that there's a situation where it's going to be like Brock Osweiler, where you didn't pay the guy, and now he's going to take that into free agency. Now, I don't think Phil's going to get some mega deal again, but
yeah, but if you end up offering the money, he'll take it. And I think Phil is smart enough to realize that they cannot go into the season with him being the only guy. They had to go out and get somebody.
I think if you ask Phil, he would probably tell you, "I can be the only guy." That's
well, yes, but then to go out and be like, "Well, I'm going to join another team because of that." if the Broncos offer him the same amount of money as any other team, he'll probably stay. I don't think it's necessarily Brock. And if the Broncos, by the way, if the Broncos had offered Brock the same amount of money as say Houston did, I think he would have stayed as well. There was no way the Broncos were going to offer Brock 19 million as they should,
But I
right?
think
So
to
as they
sitting
shouldn't
Brock
have.
when he got sat, though. I mean, that's what I'm alluding to here is that you've done something. Not, I don't think the act of not paying Phillip, because I still think I think he's an RFA. I don't know.
I have no
Um,
idea.
I think you have to put a tender on him, and then if a team, pays him, then they have to give you however that works. I don't know, but I think the act of not paying Phillip isn't what's going to make him angry. It's the fact that you went out and you paid a lot of money for another back. So it's like, oh wow, I've made it to a Pro Bowl. I've rushed for 1,000 yards, and you still don't think after you told me you draft me, you didn't draft me, and you took some 7th round guy who's not even on the roster, and I don't even think in the league anymore. So that was the first strike. This is the second strike right here. So it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, you know what? I'm good. I'm gonna go make the most money I can and play somewhere else. And if he does, he does. But that's the thing. I don't know. It's an interesting situation.
I think
played
I think there's
awesome yesterday.
again with a lot of this team, and we're gonna talk about a lot of this, and it's all gonna come back to one thing. We have to see what this team does the next few weeks and the rest of the season.
Yeah, this is a test.
Because this is a big test year. And and honestly, it's a big grow year. It can be. It can be a really big grow year for this team. Again, we'll get to why I don't necessarily think it's that type of year, but if Anthony is right, and if it's just about being patient and waiting for this, look, I know all about being patient with young guys. Okay, been patient with the Nuggets for 5 years. We've watched Jokic, Jamal, Gary. We've watched these guys grow right before our eyes. I'm all about patience with building a young team, right? I'm the one advocating to go 2-14, be patient enough to go through a bad year to go get a guy. I understand patience, but let's get to it now. Let's get to Drew Lock because I was willing to be patient with guys like Jokic or Jamal, especially Jamal, because I saw flashes. And I saw enough of those flashes. Okay? We saw Jamal Murray have 30-plus games and 25-plus games in the playoffs a year ago, about half the time. That's enough. That's 50% of those games where he showed those flashes, right? He clutched up against San Antonio in Game 7. He hit a big shot. Those are big flashes throughout the playoffs that I saw that I said he can be that guy in the playoffs. A year later, he's even better. We'll see what he does next year, right? We'll see what he does in the regular season. There was enough flashes in the regular season 3 years ago, to say this guy can be an 18 to 20 point per game guy. He put up nearly 50 against the Celtics. Big flashes, right? Jokic, obviously, we saw flashes, and he developed the way he did. So let's look at Drew Lock, okay? 7 games. Now, again, I think, in fairness, there's only been 7 games. But in 7 games, how many games if we're talking about any quarterback, you draft a quarterback, okay? And let's say you have to decide on this guy through 7 games. How many flash games? Okay, I want you to answer two things. What is a flash game to you? And let's stick to numbers. Let's just stick to numbers. What is a flash game to you, and how many of those 7 games do you need a flash game from him?
Well, if I'm gonna commit to a guy and I only have 7 games, I think if we're going just basically stat wise, he needs to be somewhere between the I want to say bare minimum 250, but I want to say like 285 to anywhere above 300. 400 is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere from 285 to 400. Obviously, a rookie throwing for 400 is super unlikely, but in that range, 285 to 400.
Okay.
I would say anywhere from 2 to 4 touchdowns a
Okay.
game. And I would say a completion percentage of at least 60 to maybe 67%. That's what I'm looking
Okay.
for.
What about interceptions per game? Let's go per game.
I mean,
So
obviously,
like
least
0.5,
but,
1.
I mean, if in 7 games if he's at least throwing, if he comes out of that 7 games with 7 or lower, anywhere from
Okay.
like 7 to 12, I think I could take. But
Okay,
I
so
mean,
you're willing to see over a pick a game.
yeah, because I think if it's only 7 games and it's a rookie,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be.
I agree with that.
You have to be kind of flexible with that type of stuff, and
I agree with that.
context matters,
Yes, context matters. Yes, we'll get to that as well. Now, how many of those 7 games, do you need to see that type of performance? Obviously, to expect that from a rookie from every game is unrealistic, and I understand that, right? That's completely unrealistic. How many games, though, of those flash games, so let's say 285, or let's say 300, 3 touchdowns, maybe 1 pick. How many of those games do you need to see through 7 games?
I'd say ideally 2 to 3.
Okay. All right. Let's stick with Drew Lock then, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I forgot Josh Allen. I'm really bummed. I kind of want to look up Josh Allen's numbers, or at least his first 7 games. But I already forgot how many guys I grabbed. I grabbed other current young quarterbacks that either played their first 7 games anywhere between 2017 and 2020, okay? And not just crap quarterbacks, okay? I have it range from Mitch Trubisky to Patrick Mahomes, okay? And there's a range in here. And Drew Lock falls in a certain category, and I don't know if I love it. So let's stick with Drew Lock. Game 1. And I did not count the Pittsburgh game, obviously. He threw 5 passes. Game 1, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Okay. For your first ever game, take it. By the way, I did not list completion percentage, but everyone's completion percentage through their first 7 games was above 60. So, including Drew Lock. Drew Lock might have not been. And they were close. They were close to 60%. I kind of said that was a wash. So, first game, 134, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Second game against Houston, 309, 3 touchdowns, a pick. Okay. That's a flash game, right? Game 3, 208, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Okay. Game 4, 192 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Game 5, 177, 1 touchdown, no picks. Game 6, 216, 1 touchdown, no picks. And yesterday, 189, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. If you want to throw in the 2 touchdowns, you can. Okay. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Dear Lord.
The phantom touchdowns.
My God. And how many yards? Let's add another 50 yards. Okay, so then that's 240, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Is that a flash game to you? In your criteria, not really.
No. Well, was yesterday's Drew Lock game a flash game? Did I feel like Drew popped off the screen like
maybe a couple plays, but yes, the game in total?
No, I didn't feel like it was a pop game, just like I didn't feel Tennessee the first week was a pop game. I thought he played good. He played solid. It was solid. I thought he gave his team a chance to win. Now, if Alberto comes down with a couple of those, or maybe Tim Patrick, I think it was Tim Patrick that had the other one, or Jerry Jeudy. If they come down, then maybe we feel different. But because those were nice throws. I mean, the balls were there.
Yeah.
The placement was great.
The deep ball to Hamilton on the right sideline. It was Hamilton, beautiful throw.
Jerry Jeudy, it went through his hands. Yep. I think at least one of the Alberto.
One of the Alberto, yep.
Right there. Did he have one to Tim Patrick that was dropped or missed?
No, Tim. I don't think Tim Patrick had a drop. Okay.
But at least 2 to 3
but
of those
he's been awesome,
they
by
were
the way.
perfectly placed.
Yeah.
So if I take that into consideration, then yes, I think it would have been a pop game. But I'm factoring that into my consideration. So if you want to label it a pop game, sure. If a flash game, sure.
Okay.
But
so out of 7 games, he had 1 legit pop game and maybe a second one. We don't know, but hey, only Broncos receivers drop balls, right? no other team. So I guess we have to consider that. Apparently towards Broncos fans. Okay, so let's jump to quarterback number 2. I have it listed Kyler Murray next. A fellow second year quarterback. Okay, so Kyler Murray, first 7 games. 308, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's a flash game to you? Game 1, pretty impressive. Game 2, 349, no touchdowns or no picks. Now, I didn't look at rushing yards because I'm not going to count rushing yards, but I'm sure he probably had a rushing touchdown in that game. But I'm pretty sure he did when I looked. But 349, 0-0, whatever. Game 3, 173, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Game 4, 241, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Game 5, 253, no touchdowns, no picks. Game 6, 340, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. 104, 0-0 is the next game. So he had 2 legit flash games in that one. I'm gonna stick to the word legit. Oh, by the way, the average for Drew Lock was 203, 1.14, and 0.7. Okay. I kind of want to share my screen with you, but that might complicate things. Okay, so Kyler Murray's average is 252, 1 touchdown, 0.5 picks. Okay, Joe Burrow. Now, obviously, Joe Burrow's only played 6 games, not 7. 193, 0, and 1 interception, his first game. His second game, 316, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. That's a pop game. That's a flash game. Game 3, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. I would say that's another flash game. Game 4, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Okay, fine, in the middle. 183, 0, and 1, and then 313, 0, and 1. Okay, so he had 2 flash games. 270, 1 touchdown, 0.66 interceptions is his average. Another rookie. He's only played 4 games. Justin Herbert. 311, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. 330, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. 290, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Say that's a flash game. 264, 4 touchdowns, no picks. That's another flash game. His average, 298, 2.2 touchdowns, 0.75 interceptions. That's Justin Herbert. Mitchell Trubisky. Okay, this one gets fun. 128, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. 113, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. 107, no touchdowns, no picks. 164, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick. 297, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. 179, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. 147, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. So his average, 162, 0.5.
I can't believe they took him.
So that's out. So I will obviously spoil it for everyone. That is the bottom of the barrel of this group.
Yeah.
But let's look at the average though. 160, 0.57, 0.57. Drew Lock was 201 and 0.7. It's not that far off. Now there's a difference, obviously, but it's not necessarily that far off. Now, Trubisky didn't necessarily have a flash game. The best game he had in the first 7, 297, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. So, meh, right? Drew Lock's flash game was, where is it? 309, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. So, okay.
The Houston game.
Yeah. The fact that we know which game that was and which team that was against tells us that that's the only one. Deshaun Watson. He started off with 102 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Second game was 125, 0-0. Third game was 301, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Game 4, 283, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. 261, 5 touchdowns, no pick. 225, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. 402, 4 touchdowns, did have 3 picks. There was multiple flash games in that one. That is, I would say, 4 straight flash games. Okay? Patrick Mahomes, game 1, 284, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick. That was against the Broncos, apparently. And that's the one game he started his rookie year. His next 6 games were in his second year. 256, 4 touchdowns, no picks. 326, 6 touchdowns, 0 picks. 314, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. 304, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. 313, 0, 2 picks. 352, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. So I would say 5 out of the 7 were flash games. Maybe 4. He had 3 kind of rough games. So yeah, he had 4 flash games. Watson probably had 4 flash games. So when we look at all these receivers, obviously 2 of them are way higher than the rest, right? But you see it in their first 7 games. They have the most flash out of those quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, you said receivers.
Oh, sorry. Out of those quarterbacks, there's 2 of them that obviously right now we think of much higher than the rest. And that's Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes. But when you look at their first 7 games, there's a big difference. Now, Patrick Mahomes, I could say, okay, well, he had an offseason in between his first game to his next 6.
He was on a really talented team.
Sure. Okay. Deshaun Watson had DeAndre Hopkins. Okay. But yeah, it's a middle team. But to be fair, I mean, that was Mahomes' 6 of his first 7 starts. No, a quarterback shouldn't go out there and be able to throw 320 and 6 touchdowns and no picks, right? And he sustained that all through that season, by the way. But there were some rookie games. 313 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. 304, 1 touchdown, no pick. Even though 354 touchdowns, he had 2 picks. There's rookie moments in those games. So what I'm saying, though, is when you look at there's a difference between the first 7 games for those 2 guys compared to these others. Now, other than Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, through his first 4 games, 311, 330, 290, 264. 1-1, 3-4. So he's comparing at least just the first 7 games, or first 4 to him, it's right there with Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. You look at their first 4 games, it's almost identical to Deshaun Watson. 102, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 125, 0-0. His next 2 games, 301, 2-2, 283, 4-1. So Herbert, it compares more to Deshaun Watson when you look at the first 7 games. Now again, it's the first 7 games, but the first 7 games show a lot. Because again, what you're looking for is those flashes. Can those flashes now turn into consistency? We've seen that it has turned into that with Mahomes. We've seen it has turned into that for Watson. We'll see what happens with Herbert. We'll see what happens with Joe Burrow, who has, I would say, 2 out of his first 6, right? He's only played 6. Yeah, 6. We'll see what happens with Justin Herbert. Again, it has to be consistent. But what I'm saying is Drew Lock has 1 flash game. One real flash game. Okay? The guys that we're talking about are great quarterbacks had 3 or 4. So there's a difference. There's a massive difference. Am I saying that Drew Lock's going to be a bad quarterback? Am I saying he's Mitch Trubisky? No. Trubisky was at the bottom of the barrel. He's bad. You could tell through the first 7 games. He's a bad quarterback, right? He's not going to get you anywhere.
Right now, he's not playing anymore. So
exactly. But you saw it. But you saw it in the first 7 games. There's proof right there. He didn't have a single flash game. The other Kyler Murray, but I have a hard time saying that Kyler Murray's had 2 flash games. 3. He's had 2 flash games. But again, I'm not looking at the running game. I also didn't grab Lamar Jackson, and I didn't grab Josh Allen. I forgot about Josh Allen. I was hesitant to grab Kyler Murray, but he was the only other quarterback in Drew Lock's draft class.
Allen right here. I have it up.
Okay.
Go through it?
Yeah.
So Josh Allen, his first start was against the Baltimore Ravens. He had 6 of 15, 74 yards. I'm assuming maybe he didn't start that whole game. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he started that whole game.
Next game, 18 of 33, 245 yards. Oh, he had 0 touchdowns, 0 picks in that first one.
Okay.
1 touchdown, 2 picks against the Chargers. Next game against the Vikings, 15 of 22, 196, 1 touchdown, 0 picks.
Yeah.
Next game was against Green Bay, 16 of 33, 151, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. Game 5 was against Houston, 10 of 19, 82 yards, 0 touchdown, 1 pick. Game 6 was against Houston. That's 10 of 17, 84 yards. Goodness gracious, this is awful. 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. And game 7 was against Jacksonville, 8 of 19, 160 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick.
Oof. Okay, so those first 7 games are rough. But we also gotta kind of remember that team. Wasn't that team a really bad team, or were they good?
In 18, I don't I mean, I see right here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses. So
Okay.
1,
I don't
2,
know. I
3,
think Josh
4,
Allen.
5 wins.
Look,
So he just started the game.
Josh Allen might be a hard one to kind of compare because of his his situation at that time. But again, Broncos fans are going to say, well, what about Drew Lock's luck? Okay. Well, to be fair, his first 5 games he did have Sutton and Noah Fant. It was only his last game where he didn't have either, and it was only his 6th game where he didn't have Sutton. So let's not act like Drew Lock didn't have weapons his first 5 games. Okay. So whatever. I don't know. Josh Allen and look, Josh Allen at this point too, I don't think you can say he's in that upper tier with, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. So I think you can kind of, he's not. It doesn't that 7 games doesn't necessarily say that he's a bad quarterback, because obviously he's doing what he's done this year, which has been pretty impressive in some of the games. But again, you still have your concerns about Josh Allen. There are accuracy concerns with Josh Allen. There always has been. And it does show once in a while still. Now he's on a really good team. So is that why his numbers are really good? And maybe his first 7 games, it was a really bad team? I don't know. I don't think, though, he had a guy like Sutton. I don't think he had a guy like Noah Fant. I don't think he had even a guy like Jerry Jeudy. Or even Tim Patrick. I don't think he had either of those type of weapons, where Drew Lock has had at least one of those in every game. At least 2 of those in every game. He's had at least 2 of those 4 guys in every game. So, and I don't think Josh Allen had a single one of those guys in his first 7. So again, context matters, right?
Slow it down.
And I didn't look at where I was getting into. I didn't look at Lamar Jackson. One, I forgot, but 2, he ran a lot his first 7 games. They didn't really let him throw, so I didn't think that was too fair. He's a different type of quarterback. That's why I was kind of hesitant to include Kyler Murray in that list, just because they run him a lot. But when I started looking at it, they do have him throw the ball quite a bit, and it shows in a couple of those games where he had massive games. So this is where I'm getting at. Drew Lock, to me, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but he has not shown enough flashes to me in the first 7 games to say he can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. That's where I'm getting at. And I think Broncos fans have, I think after looking at Twitter and understanding the last 5-6 years, I think expectations for this team has lowered a ton. And to me, those expectations haven't lowered. This team, in my mind, should be competing for Super Bowls. Should be having deep playoff runs and should be competing for Super Bowls. That's my expectations for this team. If your expectations are not that, then I understand why you're so happy for Drew Lock in this team. I get it. You want to see this team win. You're okay with getting 7 to 9 wins. You just want to see a team win throughout the regular season. You don't necessarily care that they're not winning Super Bowls. If they win Super Bowl, great. If they're competing for Super Bowls, great. But you don't necessarily care. So there's 2 different types of fans. I think for both you and I, our expectations, especially for this franchise, is to win Super Bowls. Maybe for the Nuggets, expectations are a bit lower, right? But if you're the Lakers, or if you're a team like the Broncos or the Patriots, or all these Green Bay, where they have Super Bowl history and expectations throughout all of the years, then being happy for a win against the worst team in the league when you gave up 30 points, right? How many points did they give up against the Jets? 30?
28, I think.
28? Nearly 30? Okay, 28 points against the Jets. And you lost to a team who hadn't practiced you beat a team who hadn't practiced in over 2 weeks.
Couldn't score a touchdown.
And couldn't score a touchdown. Forget about the drops. Jesus. So that's a concern. That is not exciting. That is not something to say, oh, this team is on their way. This team is right there. They're 1 or 2 years away. I don't see that. And look, I think Drew Lock can be a solid quarterback in the league. If you want to be 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, maybe 10-6, good for you. That Drew Lock is your guy. But if you want to be winning Super Bowls, if you want to at least be in the conversation of you're a playoff team and you're right there with Kansas City, because that's the team. You have to compete with Kansas City. Can you beat Kansas City? Do you have a quarterback that can beat Patrick Mahomes? My answer is no. Through the first 7 games, I have not seen enough flashes from Drew Lock to say that he is a guy that can beat Patrick Mahomes. You would need a great defense. But even then, we saw it in the Super Bowl last year. Jimmy Garoppolo is an average to slightly above average quarterback, where I think Drew Lock is, okay? I think Drew Lock will be ultimately that
right
guy.
Now.
No, not right now, because right now the numbers say he's below average. I think eventually he will be a average to slightly above average quarterback that can get you 9, 10, 11 wins with an average defense, right? With a ultimate great defense, yes, Jimmy Garoppolo led the team to a Super Bowl, right? But when it came down to winning the game, it was Patrick Mahomes and his throwing ability that won them the game. Because at the end of that, Garoppolo couldn't do anything. If he was a great quarterback, or even above average to really good quarterback, they probably would have won that game. So I'm looking at, you need a Super Bowl 50 defense in order to win with Drew Lock. How often is that going to happen? Is that going to happen? And here's another thing. They don't win the Super Bowl without Peyton Manning. You ask, most of the players will probably tell you, and I've heard most of the players say, they would not have won the Super Bowl with Brock as their quarterback. Because Peyton's IQ, he was the ultimate game manager, right? He knew when to run the ball. He knew when to change plays. And that game against New England, he had a really good game. So, again, they don't get there without the quarterback. They don't get there without an elite quarterback mind, right? He wasn't there physically. He wasn't elite. But he had half of it, and it was enough. It was enough to win it and beat a Cam Newton who had an MVP season. So, and that took a lot. That took one of the greatest defensive teams and then one of the greatest pass rushing teams we've ever seen. That's what it took to win a Super Bowl. So you're telling me that you're okay with waiting, possibly, for them to get lucky enough to create that team. By the way, guys like TJ Ward and, DeMarcus Ware only came because it was Peyton Manning. I mean, I don't think that's very likely. You're not going to do that. And if you do it, it's going to be one great year. And hey, I mean, I guess I'll take a Super Bowl, so sure. But that's pretty unlikely. I mean, ask Baltimore with Trent Dilfer, right? So that's not what I want. I want this team to be competing for a Super Bowl, being a contender every year. I want them right there with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Your quarterback doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have to be as great as Mahomes. But he has to be a top 5 to top 10 quarterback. Most likely top 5. In order to be there consistently and to get 1 or 2. That's what I want. That's where I want this team to be. And Drew Lock is just not the guy. From what I've seen so far. Now, can I be wrong? Can he prove me wrong? Can he go out there this season and show, flashes every other game and have average 300 yards, 3 touchdowns for the rest of the season? Sure. And he'll prove me wrong. I'll be the first person to say I was wrong. I'll be the first person to give him a standing ovation. I want to be wrong. I want him to be the guy. But there's a reason why the Broncos didn't take him at 10 or wherever the hell they were. There's a reason why they took Noah Fant and the guard, Reisner, ahead of him. So Obviously, they didn't love him enough coming out of college to go get him. Remember, Kansas City traded up to go get Patrick Mahomes. They saw something in Mahomes that they loved. Chicago did the same thing. Obviously, they picked the wrong guy, but they saw something in Trubisky that they thought or that they loved, right? The Broncos didn't. They didn't see anything. They were either scared or they didn't see anything that they absolutely loved from him.
Right.
So that's, I mean, again, it's just, this is a mess of a team. You have some talent around Drew Lock, but my question to all the Broncos fans out there is it good enough to where you're competing for a Super Bowl in 2 to 3 years? I don't think it is. Is it good enough to maybe make the playoffs? Yeah, maybe. If they stay healthy, maybe. It depends a lot on the coaching, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
I get where you're coming from, and there was a lot there, so I'm gonna try and unpack everything. I hope I remember everything. But first, to your point about them loving Drew Lock, and this is what I try to explain to a lot of Broncos fans. I don't think they loved Drew Lock. I think they liked Drew Lock. Listen, I love Crumble Cookie. I will go out of my way to drive and get Crumble Cookie. I'm not gonna wait till someone, it drops in my lap from someone bringing it to my house. I like it. That says I like it. That doesn't mean I love it. If I love something, I'm going to go pursue it. I'm going to try and, it's going to be a priority for me to go after. Drew Lock wasn't a priority for the Denver Broncos. Otherwise, they would have taken him at 10. They didn't do that. They traded back to 20 in the 20s. They took Noah Fant there. They had a first, second round pick. They didn't take him there. They took Dalton Reisner. And then it was like, oh, wow, Drew Lock is still here. Now we can take him because it's a good value at this spot. There's nice things he does. There's nice things he brings. But it wasn't nice enough for them to take him at 10 or for them to want to trade up because they felt like, oh my God, someone's going to take Drew Lock. We need to do everything we can to get him. That's point number one. Point number two, I'll disagree with you. I think Drew will be better than an average quarterback. I just don't know if he's going to be a special quarterback. I think he has the potential to be a good quarterback.
Well, I said anywhere between average to slightly above average.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I think Maxey can be a good player, a good enough quarterback to get you to the playoffs.
Right. I think he could be someday
a Jimmy Garoppolo, essentially.
I think he could be better than Jimmy. I think he could be.
Well, he has better arm talent than Jimmy. 10, yeah.
I think he could be 7-12 someday. I think he could be in that range, but closer to 7, like high ceiling 7. And this is not to say that he can't be special. Like you said, like he could prove us wrong, but we're just going off the numbers.
Well, he has the talent. He has the arm talent to do so.
Sure. So I think right now, just me seeing this, I think he could be that. I think it's a little unfair to pin people against Patrick Mahomes because I think he came into a crazy good situation with an all-pro tight end, one of the best receivers in the league, one of the best offensive coaches.
But the reason why I put him in there is because he did have rookie games in those 7 games.
He did.
So, he threw 50 touchdown passes that year, but he went on that crazy run in the second half of that year, whereas his first, I would say 10 games when I was looking at it, it was up and down. So he went crazy in the second half.
Right. I just think it's unfair. I mean, I get why you did it, but I just think he had literally, if you were a quarterback and you wanted a perfect maze situation, Patrick Mahomes got it. He went to a playoff team
but it doesn't mean he's not,
no,
he's great.
He has the talent to back it up, but his situation was great.
Yeah.
A lot of these other quarterbacks, like Deshaun Watson, Houston wasn't great.
Right. But he still showed it. But he still showed those games. He had but see, here's the thing. He had just as many flash games as Mahomes.
And I get it, but that's where I'm going to, is that Drew Lock, I think Drew Lock has had a flash game. That's why I think everyone, like you said, can remember, oh, Houston, boom. That's the one that comes to your mind. You don't think of what he did in the other games. Now, he had moments where it was like, wow, that was a great throw. Or, wow, he's really mobile. Oh, he's good in the pocket. He has a great pocket presence. But besides that Houston game, there hasn't been a game where it's like, oh, man, he's really putting it all together. Now, part of that, too, is, could be team, guys dropping balls, bad coaching decisions, defense not holding up, whatever the case. We understand context has to be taken into.
But when you add in those contexts, too, and I knew that you would bring that up, these other quarterbacks are dealing with those type of issues as well. Kyler Murray was on an awful team last year. He didn't have a DeAndre Hopkins. Christian Kirk, but he was also another rookie. And
I get it. I get it. I'm not saying that these other quarterbacks didn't, but I'm just saying Drew Lock, and I'm agreeing with you. Drew Lock hasn't had multiple flash games. He's had
right.
one flash game and nice moments throughout each game.
Right.
So when I see that, I think, okay, he has the potential to be good. I don't know if he has the potential to be special or top five, or like you said, a team that, or a guy that can drag his team to a Super Bowl. Like, is he a Russell Wilson? Is he a Patrick Mahomes? Is he a young Tom Brady? Is he Aaron Rodgers? I don't know if he is that. So when I look at Drew Lock, that's my concern. I don't think he'll be bad. I think he'll be better than average. I think he'll be better than slightly above average. Like I said, I think the ceiling, or maybe like what I see his ceiling as, is like 7 to 12, which I think is good.
I agree with that. I think that's his ceiling.
I think you can win a Super Bowl with that. I don't think you have to have an all-time defense necessarily to win with that. I think when you're in like the 12, above, that's when you need to have a great all-time
Well,
defense.
but when you look at the past 20 Super Bowls, how many of quarterbacks anywhere between 7 and 12 have actually won a Super Bowl?
Well, exactly. And
most of the time, it's a top 5 guy.
Sure. But I mean, it doesn't mean that, like, would you say Ben is a top 5 quarterback? He's probably like 7 to 12, but I mean, he could win a Super Bowl. He doesn't necessarily.
But they had great defenses. So now you're having to rely on your GM, who's been god awful the last 4 years.
When they didn't have great defenses, though, I'm talking about like after those defenses. Like Ben was always like 5 to 12. Like he was always a top tier quarterback.
Right.
You could win with that. That's what I'm saying. So I mean, I get what you're saying.
Well, you could win. You couldn't win Super Bowls though.
I think you could.
They didn't. Well, they didn't.
No, they didn't. But you could, though. Like he's not the issue. He's not the
No, he wasn't the issue. No, he wasn't.
That's where we're weak at. It's oh man, we're not great in the secondary, or our defense isn't what it used to be. So I think you make valid points, and I do think Drew Lock hasn't shown us special flashes. He hasn't put together a consistent string of games.
But look, it's been only 7 games, so he can. I understand that.
I do, in fairness, I do think yesterday, if 2 of those touchdowns are caught, or maybe 3, I think we look at that game yesterday and say that's a flash game.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with. I totally agree with you. But again, other quarterbacks deal with drop passes too. Right. I mean, there was a game earlier this season where Joe Burrow, not a single receiver could catch a ball. It was unbelievable. I was watching it. I think it was maybe it was last week where he had only 183, no touchdowns and a pick. I forget who they were playing, but dear God, no one could catch a damn ball. It was unbelievable. So it's not like these other quarterbacks aren't dealing with the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, Justin Herbert against Tampa Bay in that shootout, there was plenty of drop passes.
Right. I get what you're saying, but I'm just
he didn't throw 2 picks right after.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Here's my other point, though. If those touchdowns are caught, that's a flash game. So you take into context. Okay, now the ball placement was great. They were dropped, so that's not on Drew. But then he comes back late in the game and he throws 2 awful picks.
Right.
The one to Tim Patrick, he said it was just a miscommunication. He was hoping for a back shoulder throw. Tim wasn't on the same page. It was still a bad throw. He assumed that Tim would know what he was thinking, so that's on Drew. He admitted that's on me. Yep. The second one, now a lot of people are saying, well, that was a terrible call. It was. Pat Shermer, what are you doing?
Yeah, it was a terrible call.
Run
but you're in control. Don't throw that ball.
Exactly. At the end of the day,
check it down.
Drew Lock is the one throwing the football.
Throw it away.
Drew Lock doesn't have to throw that. And if you look at that play, Tim Patrick is double covered. Who's wide open on the left side of the field? Jerry Jeudy. Mm-hmm. He didn't throw to Jerry Jeudy. He threw it down the middle of the seam where Tim Patrick was blanketed. So again, that's on him. So we have to take all this into account here. So
look, and yesterday I got attacked for box score reading, and I understand that, but at the same time, you cannot respond from those drop passes. You cannot respond by throwing 2 picks. You cannot do that. Right. If he would have gone down, what they should have done after those drops, you're at 18 points, 6 field goals, okay. Well, instead of throwing 2 picks, how about you go down and score again? What are you doing? It's I get the drops, but he responded to those drops by throwing 2 picks and 2 pretty bad throws, and he admitted them. So the excuse of saying that him and Tim Patrick was on the, I mean, sure, but like you said, you can't assume that he knows it's still a bad throw. I mean, that corner was right on him. So it's just there's things where you're watching Drew Lock and you see flashes during the game, but it's not flash games, and that's my concern. I mean, I've watched these last 2 weeks. I've watched Justin Herbert, and the dude can play, and you just see it. Even in the first game where he had 311 but only one touchdown and one pick, you could see it, and it was every single time, every single drive. You could see he just has it. He just has the ability to just make plays and carry a team who, by the way, has dealt with a lot of injuries as well, and put them in a position to win games. Week 2, or I believe it was that game, right? That first game he played Kansas City, or was it the next week he played Kansas City?
I think it was the next week.
Either way, he threw for 330 the next week.
I think Kansas City was his first game, wasn't it?
Ah, man, I can't remember. Either way, his first 2 games were similar. Slightly over 300, one touchdown, one pick. He did that against Kansas City, and they lost 23-20. He put them in a position to beat Kansas City. Will Drew Lock do that next week? Will Drew Lock do what Justin Herbert did against Kansas City?
I don't know.
We will find out a lot. I mean, when you look at the Broncos' schedule, you will find out everything that you'll probably need to know about Drew Lock the rest of this season. And I get it. I get the rule of saying quarterbacks you should give them 2 to 3 years. But what I'm saying, and I agree with that, but what I'm saying is you need to, if Drew Lock only has, how many games do they have left? They're 2-3, so they have 11 more games to go. I would say out of those 11 games, he needs to have at least, bare minimum, 4 flash games. 4. And here's another thing that we haven't talked about with Drew Lock that people just brush right over. There is a injury concern with Drew Lock. He got hurt at the end of the preseason in that game. Knocked him out. Yeah, he could have came back a lot sooner. The Broncos were idiots. Whatever. And then in game 2 this season, after 5 passes, he gets hurt. Now, could both of them have been flukes? Sure. But that's a concern. You have to stay healthy. Now, Patrick Mahomes did get hurt last year. Okay, I understand that. Quarterbacks get hurt. But to get hurt twice, he got hurt after how many games last season? Preseason games, like 2, 3. And he got hurt after 1 game this season. That's a concern. You need him to be healthy. So that's another concern that I have. Real quick, I want to go over Twitter because I will give this to Bronco fans, okay? And yes, I'm a Bronco fan, but I'm not one of these crazies out here. The next time a Broncos player says that they have the best fans in the NFL, I would 100% agree with them. The Broncos have the best fan base in the league because they are so goddamn loyal to this team that they make themselves sound like idiots. Like they look crazy. Like they are completely insane. And they're full on drinking the orange and blue Kool-Aid. They have the orange and blue sunglasses. They have, they're dressed in all orange, going crazy. The Broncos should be so grateful for their fan base. It shows in their attendance over the last however many years. But, man, no matter what this team does, the fans will just, no matter what, defend them, and they will die on that hill. And credit to those who are willing to do that. I'm not willing to die on that hill. I am gonna be more realistic when it comes to this team, and any team really. I've been realistic when it comes to the Nuggets. I've been realistic when it comes to the Avs. The Rockies are ass, and they'll always be ass, but that doesn't matter. I've always been realistic when it comes to these teams, and that. You can't. I'm not willing to just defend this team nonstop because other teams are going through the same things. This team is a 4-win team, and being a 6-win team isn't much different. Okay, Jesus, like, come on, look at their schedule. Even with Drew Lock. Now, one thing that someone said, I don't remember who it was, but he said that this team does play different with Drew Lock on the field. I agree. I think this team plays so much better when Drew Lock is out there. Drew Lock has some of those intangibles that you love to see, right? And a quarterback. He's a leader. The team overall plays better when he's out there. 100% agree. But so did the team when Tim Tebow was a quarterback. Is Tim Tebow a great quarterback? No. The team sure as hell played better with him. So your team can believe in you and play better with you. Doesn't mean you're a great quarterback. So, again, there's a lot to be seen here the next few weeks. You got to be patient. But at the same time, you can't just ignore some of these games. You can't just brush it off like, oh, it's nothing. All rookies go through this. Because he's had more of those games than the other great quarterbacks when they were going through their first set of games. So we'll see a lot. We'll see a lot against Kansas City because I will be comparing Drew Lock to Justin Herbert. 100%. To me, they're in the same boat because Drew Lock didn't necessarily have an offseason. To me, Drew Lock is a rookie. So, and I think he's a rookie towards most people. But Justin Herbert had 300-plus yards, a touchdown, and a pick against Kansas City. And he put his team in a position to win, and they should have won. They lost 23-20 in overtime. So, let's see what Drew Lock does.
And again, I think, and I'm already having a back and forth on Twitter about this whole conversation because it's the whole narrative of if you don't completely fall over yourself over Drew Lock, it's, oh, you think he sucks. Well, that's not the case. Nobody is saying that. But apparently when it comes to Broncos country, you can't critique any Broncos player. I mean, just look at Von Miller. I mean, he is, like you come at Von Miller, you ask about his contract, you are an awful person.
Yeah,
you're terrible.
That's and the whole Von Miller thing is driving me nuts because people say, well, if Von Miller would have been healthy, they'd be much better. Really? Are you sure?
I think it would have helped.
Are you sure though? Because what we saw last season from Von Miller, he didn't do too much to help.
But I mean, yes. But they also didn't have some of the same players that they have now. I get it. Listen, at the end of the day, nobody here thinks Drew Lock sucks.
No.
People do think Drew Lock can improve. I think Drew can be a good quarterback, not a special quarterback. He could prove us wrong. Hopefully that's the case.
And I hope he does.
Right? Hopefully we're wrong. That's what we're saying here. But at the end of the day, if I'm just going to say this, Broncos fans, if we're going to take context into account with Drew Lock's performance, let's also take into context that the Patriots didn't practice that much for 2 weeks. And the Broncos not only couldn't score a touchdown, but you could make the argument they probably could have lost that game yesterday. So if we're gonna use the context,
they should have. New England was driving.
Sure.
And
if we're gonna use the context argument for Drew Lock, let's use it for the other side and make it whole, and use it for the Broncos team as a whole.
I will say this though, and I want to give credit to Vic Fangio, only focusing on his defense. They finally made plays for the first time in a year and a half. They made plays. Now, does that have to do with maybe New England not practicing for 2 weeks? Maybe. I don't know. But that's two. But by the way, that's two. In 2 weeks, they have 8.5 sacks, I believe is what I saw. So credit, and now it's against the Jets, and it's against a team who didn't practice in 2 weeks, and against a quarterback who likes to hold on to the ball in Cam Newton. So I don't know how much, again, context means everything, right? So I don't know how much you can take that into consideration, but credit to the defense. They made plays when the plays were there. And they came up with the ball when the ball was loose. So credit to them. They made plays. The defense did enough to win the game. They didn't blow it at the end, which they almost did. But they didn't blow at the end like they've been for the last year and a half. So, again, credit to Vic Fangio and making sure that he direct focus on the defense and leaving the offense out for everyone else to figure out. But credit to his defense for showing up.
I'm just saying we just need to take into full context everything. If we're gonna do it with Drew, we need to do it with the Denver Broncos. But they got to win. They're 2-3. Somehow they're somewhat still alive in this whole thing of being competitive. I still don't think they're a playoff team. And I'll say this, Broncos fans, and all those that don't ever want to critique this team and don't ever want to, it's just all sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops and blue and orange snuggies and all that stuff. This is going to be the test for the team. Okay, you want to be a playoff team? You want to be big time? You want to prove to everybody that you're legit and that you don't suck? Okay, well, you got Kansas City, you got the Chargers next. Win those games. Win those games. Put up a fight against Kansas City. Don't roll over. You should beat Atlanta, right? Like, we think they should beat Atlanta? I think they should beat Atlanta. I'd probably actually pick them to beat Atlanta. And then you got the Raiders, you got Miami, you got New Orleans. There's a bunch of good teams on there. I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear any excuses, because if this is a good team and everybody thinks that's on the opposite side that can't get themselves to critique this team fairly and look at them fairly, because there are some that look at this team over negatively. I'll admit that. And there's definitely a whole bunch of people that just want to look at this team with positive light shining all the time. But this is your chance right here.
Yeah,
this is your big boy team.
This is your chance.
Win.
And
right
look,
here. This is your chance.
I was the one. Go back and listen to the podcast before the season started. I was the one saying this team could win 10 games. I was the one saying that Drew Lock could have a really good year. But I'm not seeing enough for him to be that type of guy, and this team obviously hasn't showed enough to be that type of team. I'm reacting to what they're putting out there. If they were actually playing well and Drew Lock was actually showing those flashes and not responding, this is driving me nuts. Because look, Anthony, dude, I get it. The drops, he wouldn't have thrown the picks if the drops didn't happen. Sure, but you cannot respond by throwing 2 picks after the drops. That's not good. You can't just ignore the interceptions because of the drops. The interceptions happened. They were 2 bad throws. You can't respond. That's not a good sign that your quarterback is responding to drop touchdown passes by throwing 2 terrible picks in back-to-back drives. That's not a good sign from your quarterback who you think is going to lead your team to a Super Bowl. Can't.
I get it. It is.
He threw the 2 picks. Now, I would say if he didn't throw the 2 picks and he finished the game 10 of 22 or whatever the hell with 183 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, fine. I would understand. I would understand 100%. And honestly, if he didn't throw the 2 picks, I wouldn't be saying what I'm saying. I would be probably a little bit more patient. But you cannot respond to the 2 picks after that.
Yeah. Well, and we're also forgetting about the pick that he also almost threw in the first half, I believe it was, when Tim Patrick.
Yeah, it should have been a pick.
Dropped by New England. So what about the fumbled snap? So, I mean, these are all facts here too, people. Like, we can't just pick and choose what we want to see because it fits our narrative for the station we work for. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. Okay, we can critique a player without saying that he sucks. That doesn't, just because you critique somebody, yes, were there drops? Of course. But there were also 2 picks that weren't dropped, and possibly a 3rd pick. So, I mean, let's just take it all into account here. Kansas City's next. That's what we got to do here. We're gonna wrap it up. For Pick'em, we have 2 games tonight. Doubleheader, Kansas City at Buffalo's the early game.
We picked the same,
Arizona
right?
At Dallas. So you're 5-7 without those games right now. I was 6-6. So we'll see how that goes. The Jacksonville Jaguars in Cleveland were not kind to you. Atlanta, though, you got. And we didn't get to it
that
today,
was
but
hilarious.
Cousins. Oh, Kirk Cousins. Kirky. Prayers up to Minnesota fans. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that your front office did this to you. You paid all that money for this.
Could you imagine if the Broncos? Oh man, I am. Whoo! Hey, guess what? I was right on that one, wasn't I?
We can give John some praise there. We dodged a bullet there, Johnny. All right, that's gonna do it for us.
Well,
today.
but he tried. He still tried to get him.
That's the sad part. That's the sad part. We thank you guys for
real quick, are we the same on tonight's picks?
Yes, Arizona and KC.
Okay, so Arizona and KC. Do I want to change any of those? Is there a Thursday night game this week? There is, right?
No, I don't. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I just know that Kansas City Buffalo was the original scheduled Thursday night game, and they moved it to.
Well, that was for last Thursday though. There is a Thursday, Giant Eagles. Okay, I'll just pick opposite of that game. Okay, we'll keep it the same thing.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate you guys listening. For Brandon Stoll on the other side, I am Stephen Priest Jr. This has been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast.